everybody. I am Tracy Stout. I'm the Vice President of Marketing and Communications at PMMI and one of the leaders of the Packaging and Processing Women's Leadership Network. On behalf of both those groups, I'm so happy to welcome you all here. It's been such a long time since we've all been together. It's really great. So thank you for coming and thank you for being a part of this. I hope you enjoyed the video. We are debuting it here at the breakfast. This is actually a new endeavor. You will be seeing the video, hopefully, quite a bit over the next couple of months as we roll it out through PMMI and PMMI Media Group channels to help raise the profile of what we're trying to do in all of our efforts throughout the broader industry. So I hope you enjoyed it, and again, thank you to all the video sponsors. We have a great program today. One piece of housekeeping to get out of the way. The state mandate are, as you all know, are masks to be worn inside. You are exempt while you're actively eating and drinking, but please do wear your mask when you're not. Speakers and performers are also exempt from the masks, so we'll still be in compliance, but you will see us unmasked here on the stage. With that all said, we do have, like I said, a really exciting packed program today, so I'm not going to take too much more time. We are starting it with a keynote I'm so excited about, Tracy Noonan. She co-founded Wicked Cupcakes with her daughter, and I think in the true definition of entrepreneurial spirit, they grew it from a home-based idea to a multi-million-dollar company, and it's really quite extraordinary. So she's going to be here to share some of the things that they've learned, that she's learned along the way, and some of her thoughts about how the industry is evolving and moving forward. Following Tracy, we will have a panel discussion moderated by Neal, and she will be joined by Yolanda Malone from PepsiCo, as well as Tharp from Bumble Seafood and Sharon Gilbert from Septimatech. So like I said, we have a lot of great stuff that we're packing into this morning. And last but not least, I hope as you've seen on the rotating slides that we're going through breakfast, I want to thank again the breakfast event sponsors, Emerson, ID Technology, Morrison Container Handling Solutions, SMC, Pack, and Septimatech. These sponsors really have been with us from the beginning, and their support really means everything. So thank you very much to the sponsors. And please, thank you. And I think with that, please welcome to the stage Tracy Noonan.
Thank you so much, Tracy. Good morning, everybody. I have a wicked Boston accent, so if any of you have trouble understanding me, go see Stephanie. Before I get started, I would like to actually thank Stephanie and Tracy and all of the event planners for inviting me to be here today. This is just a wonderful opportunity. I haven't been out in public because of the pandemic, much like yourselves. It's such an honor to be here with you, so thank you so much for this. So, I am Tracy Noonan. I'm the former CEO and co-founder of Wicked Good Cupcakes. Wicked Good Cupcakes was a hobby that my daughter Danny and I started in our home kitchen and turned into a business. In 2013, Danny and I had a unique opportunity. We had the opportunity to appear on ABC's hit show, Shark Tank. But before all of that happened, we had to start our business. Danny was my youngest, and she had moved out of the house. This was in 2010. And as any mom would be, I was really nervous. I wanted to see her. I knew that she was spreading her wings and probably didn't want to spend a whole lot of time with her mom. But I talked her into taking some cake decorating classes with me, and we found out we were pretty good. So we started to post what we were creating on Facebook, and friends and family began to order from us. So much so that we had to make a decision. Were we going to keep this a hobby and rein it in? I mean, we only had one little wall oven. Or were we going to go for it? Were we going to make a legitimate business? Well, The two of us didn't know what we didn't know. We just were high school educated, no college degrees, obviously no MBAs. We had no formal culinary experience. We just baked from family recipes. But we decided we were going to go for it. So my husband, Scott, Danny's stepdad, said, "That's fine. I'll give you a loan of $30,000, but that is it. Sink or swim." So in October of 2011, Danny and I opened our cupcake shop. And we were successful right from the get-go. Surprising. As a matter of fact, the first day was so busy and I was so overwhelmed and so tired, I quit at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Completely done. People had to come find me. I was out crying by the dumpster out in back of the building. It so happened that my in-laws were there helping us. They were washing dishes. And my mother-in-law came out and she said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I quit. I don't want to do this." And she said, "You owe my son $30,000. Get your ass back inside." And I'm glad I did. We had a perishable product. My husband's company built us a website. Actually, my husband built it. And so through Google searches, people started to ask us to ship. But how do you ship a cupcake, right? They're perishable, they're delicate. It didn't make much sense to me. I didn't know how we were going to do this. So my curiosity got the best of me, and what I did was I began to order from other major cupcake shops that were shipping. And I gotta tell you, I wasn't very impressed. I was spending between $70 and $90 to get a dozen cupcakes that were smashed or melted or stale. And the business person inside of me said, if I took a customer's hard-earned money and this is what they ended up sending someone as a gift, I'd be pretty pissed if I were them, and I can't do that. So we kind of shelved the idea, even though it would have been a great revenue stream for us. Well, my husband, who's a workaholic, was up one night working. The TV was on, it was the Food Network, and there was a show about canning. And oh man, was he excited. He figured it out. At least he thought he did. He made the fatal mistake of waking me up at 1 in the morning. No one ever wakes me up because I don't sleep. And he said to me, "Tracy, I have the best idea. I know exactly how we're going to ship your cupcakes. We're going to put them in mason jars." And I said to him, "Are you fucking kidding me?" It's 1 in the morning, and that is the dumbest idea I've ever heard. No, it wasn't. In full transparency, I've not heard the end of it. That is exactly what we did. We put the cupcake jars on our website in December of 2011 with the hopes of selling about $3,000 worth a month because that would cover our rent. In 2013, I'm going to jump ahead, I applied to Shark Tank. If you know anything about the show, it is a business catapult. I applied for season 4, which was the first full season that ABC was going to air the show. There were 100,000 applications. Shark Tank will take 120 businesses, film them all, but then they only air 80 to 100. What an opportunity, right? Amazing. This could be a make or break moment for your business. But what comes along with opportunity? What do you think? What does one have to do when they've been given such a gift? Right, meet the challenge. You have to be ready to work. You have to back it up. You have to make it happen. You can't expect someone to come up to you and say, "Here you go, here's this, now you don't have to work." That's not how it works. We applied to Shark Tank. We flew out July 7th, 2012, and I know that date because it was my 50th birthday. We went into the tank. We made our pitch. We offered the Sharks 20% equity in exchange for $75,000. Mark Cuban ate 4 jars while we were filming. Everybody loved them except for Robert. He said they were too sweet. Well, it's cake. The only offer came from Mr. Wonderful, and guess what it was? A royalty deal. But royalty deals are cool. We were making money, and royalty deals incentivize that person to help you make more. And Kevin loves his money. So we went back and forth. Kevin told us, I'll give you $75,000. I want $1 for every jar you sell till I'm paid back. And then I want 50 cents a jar in perpetuity. I counted with 40 cents a jar. We landed on 45 cents a jar. We paid Kevin back in 6 weeks. All $75,000. I think even he was a little shocked. Following our airing on Shark Tank, let me see if I get this right. First of all, we were the first website not to crash, thanks to my husband, because the amount of traffic that goes through that is just infinitesimal. We did $250,000 the 4 days following our airing. We grew 600% that first year. ABC and Shark Tank loved us. They loved the mother-daughter vibe. We had 5 updates. We're filming our 6th update this November. No one has had that many. Every time we got on television, boom, sales. So this is how we're going to use Mr. Wonderful. I don't need to call Kevin and say, hey, can you find me some boxes? I want to call Kevin and say, hey, get me on Kelly Pickler's show. Hey, get us on 2020. Hey, get us on Good Morning America. And he did. In the past 8 years, we have paid Kevin O'Leary $1.25 million in royalties. That's on 45 cents a jar. He was motivated. I talk about opportunity a lot. And right now you're looking at a picture of Tom Brady. Love him or hate him, I love him. I'm from Boston. I think if he had met me before Giselle, I wouldn't be here right now, but that's another story. Tom Brady is the perfect opportunity story. For those of you who don't know, Tom was drafted in the year 2000. Tom was the 199th pick. He went in the 6th round. I mean, come on. 6 other quarterbacks were picked before Tom. But Tom knew that an opportunity would come his way, and he was going to be ready. Like I said, love him or not, Tom's work ethic is historic. Drew Bledsoe, poor Drew, gets hurt. In the 4th quarter of a game, near the end of the game, Tom goes in. The rest is history. I personally think that Tom is going to wait till he has 10 rings before he retires, unless Giselle really tells him that she's had enough, but that's just my opinion. This is a perfect example of how an opportunity can come to you, and if you're ready to seize it, there's no telling what you can do. There's no limits to what you can do. The picture you're looking at right now, the little tiny picture to the right, that's our original cupcake shop. It was 15 feet wide and 90 feet long. We had 0 room for packaging in there. In 2017, we were fortunate enough to be able to build out 21,000 square feet, most of it warehouse. And in doing so, we were able to store packaging and our glass. We built a brand new bakery. It was an opportunity, and we seized it. It was also a great opportunity to be able to start hiring more people. I'm really proud of the work environment that we were able to create for our coworkers. There was none of this standing over anybody's shoulder. There was total autonomy for our workers. You come in, you do your job, we're going to leave you alone. It's a great environment. We said thank you all the time. It was important to say thank you to these people who are doing this job, helping grow your business. I want you to think about what we do. It's extraordinarily labor intensive. The decorators will get a tray, 48 mason jars, and it will take them about 10 minutes. This is how good they are. Cake frosting filling. Boom, done. But they're doing that all day long. How do you keep your coworkers motivated? How do you let them know that this is important? Obviously, it's important to me, but it should be something that they feel some importance and take some ownership of. So what I did was I decided that all of the emails we were getting from our customers, and we get many, we have a very ravenous following, very loyal. I would take these emails that would say something like, I'm a mom, I work 2 jobs, and all my daughter wanted was wicked good cupcakes. Thank you. Or, every Friday I go see my grandfather in the hospital. He's dying. I bring 2 cupcake jars. He eats 1 and I eat 1. Thank you. I strung a clothesline on our freezer. I'm getting a little choked up. It's amazing. And I would hang all of these emails. And it made a difference. Now it wasn't just a jar with smashed cake in it. It was something that was important to someone. And it wasn't just because it was going to Steve Carell or to an athlete or to Time Warner or to some Ellen DeGeneres or someone big and famous. This was important. This one jar was important to someone. And it was great that we had a way to let them know that what they did was making a difference, as corny as that sounds. Our coworkers, if we found that they weren't doing great in a certain position, we'd switch them out. I didn't care if they went to college or not. I didn't go to college. My dad didn't send me to college because I was a girl. Everything I learned, I had to learn on my own until I was fortunate enough to have people like Marcus as a mentor. But we'd take these people and we'd say to them, what do you want to do? What do you like doing? Well, I'd really like to try to help with marketing or social media. Excellent. That's what you're going to do. We said thank you all the time. Yeah, there was the usual Christmas bonus, but what about the rest of the year? We took opportunities like Halloween and Valentine's Day and all these occasions. Danny and I would go out, we'd buy each person a different card than the other person. We would write handwritten notes inside. We'd give them gift cards. We'd say thank you. It's not much, but it shows that you care. It was an opportunity to do something nice. Speaking of mentors, I've had fabulous mentors in my life. From when we started the business to our local food purveyors and accountants, right on up to people like Marcus, Kevin, and my girl crush, Kat Cole. I don't know if any of you are familiar with her. It's Kat with a K. Look her up. Kat started as a Hooters girl, worked every position in Hooters, and now is president of Focus Brands. I wrote a blog piece about her. I tweeted it out, and guess who called me? Guess who said, hey, I like what you're doing, let's talk. At the time, she was president of Cinnabon. We created a Cinnabon jar, and then she spent an hour with me. She was really funny. She said, okay, you get an hour of my time. And we talked about one specific subject. I can tell you exactly what it was. A bridge too far. Don't make your business. Don't do things that are a bridge too far. I'll never forget it. And honestly, we took that advice and we became more profitable because of it. In turn, I took the opportunity of everything I had learned over the past 10 years, and I started mentoring people. I actually mentored women at the Win Lab at Babson College who were MBA cohorts, little old me with my high school education. I mentored high school kids who I knew were not going to have the opportunity to go to college because it was important for them to know that they could still do something, even though that disappointment of not being able to do what they thought they needed to do to succeed was going to happen for them. It was an opportunity. I started a entrepreneurship program at a place called Delancey Street. Delancey Street is a national foundation. It's in most major cities. And gentlemen who are having trouble with the law, they're headed for jail or substance abuse, live at Delancey Street, and they get to start their lives over. I figured they have businesses that work out of Delancey Street, like landscaping, and they have, moving companies. But what if one of them wants to start a business? Shouldn't they have like an idea of where to begin? So I went and did that. So rewarding. One of the kids in the class, 18 years old, always came to that class in a suit. He saw it as an opportunity. He wanted me to know he saw it as an opportunity. In January of this year, we started negotiations with a company called Hickory Farms. In June of this year, Hickory Farms acquired us. I'm officially retired. Kind of. Thank you. What an opportunity. I was able to take my daughter from working at Cumberland Farms on a path to nowhere, help her figure out what she wanted to do, and at 31 years old, she became a millionaire. We had an opportunity. We worked hard. We solved a problem. This was our differentiator. This was how we shipped a product. This started a little tiny niche industry now. There's a lot of people making cupcake jars. Good for them. Opportunity. Working hard. It was all part of it. And Danny and I, for me, the most valuable part of all of this journey, even more so than the freedom, no more going to work. I have memories as a mom with my daughter that I will take to my grave. I went places with her. I met people with her. I did things with her that people only dream of. And for that opportunity, I will be forever grateful. And I want you folks, as you walk around in your daily lives, think about the opportunities that come to you. Don't be afraid of the work. Don't be afraid of the hard work. It's worth it. If you want to invent something, invent it. If you want to go do something, do it. Don't feel like you're too old or not smart enough. I went through all of this. It doesn't matter. You have the ability to do something great. And it doesn't take much. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Take something that you can make better, and you've solved a problem. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
I'm Stephanie Neal. I'm an editor at PMMI Media Group. I want to thank you, Tracy, so much for telling us your story. It's just a snippet of her story, so I would encourage everybody to read the book that Tracy and her daughter, Danny, wrote. It's called Wicked Good Idea. I read it. It's for any business entrepreneur, somebody maybe wants to change careers, or just a little inspiration. I took a lot of inspiration from it. It's going to be required reading for my daughter who's starting her own food truck, so thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
I learned a lot. I also learned that at one point, you and your cupcakes were a national security risk, and it started right here in Vegas. Is that true?
Yes, my daughter and Danny and I were deemed a national security threat by the TSA. The Department of Homeland Security was on our website 200 times that month the story broke. It would appear that the frosting constituted a gelatinous substance that could have been bomb-making material. I'll let you take it from there. Google Cupcake Gate, Cupcake and TSA. You'll see the story. It went viral. It was one of the things that gave us proof of concept. It's why I went to Shark Tank. Yes.
Many more stories like that, I'm sure. So I want to introduce our panel very quickly. So next to Tracy is Sharon Gilbert. She's the president and CEO of Septimatech. She's also the co-chair of the Packaging and Processing Women's Leadership Network. Next to Sharon is Jan Tharp. She's the president and CEO of Bumble Seafood Company, and our other co-chair of the Packaging and Processing Women's Leadership Network. That's easy for me to say. And Yolanda Malone, she's the VP of R&D for Foods, VP of R&D,
Go, girl, you got
Foods
it.
and Packaging at PepsiCo. Got it?
Got it.
Thank you, ladies. Oh, I can't see you.
We should make like
So
a
let's start with, the theme is the new world of work. And obviously over the past 18 months or more, we've all had to work very differently. We're working remotely, we're wearing masks. So how does a company maintain a positive and productive culture with this hybrid and somewhat distant work environment? And Jan, I'm gonna start with you to answer that question, because I know we've talked a lot about this.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think when I often talk about, frequently anyway, embracing the word and specifically embracing and as it sits between two opposing thoughts. And what I mean by that is if you look at our company and some of the things that we've had to go through, and we went through some significant brand reputation damage, a bankruptcy, a sale of the company. At the same time, we also won top workplace in San Diego through those years. So we held those two truths together, and culture is so important to our business. Mm-hmm. And so now we fast forward to this new world, and your question is really valid. How do you hold the truth of we're living in so much ambiguity right now and still hold on to culture, hold on to all of the things that got us through some of our choppy waters? And it is extremely difficult, but I think that the answer is flexibility.
Right.
And we've got to understand that right now there is no rule book. There's nothing out there that tells us how we're going to maneuver through this. It's almost like chalk painting in the rain. What you thought was going to be the case, yesterday, you move to tomorrow and it's something different. And so I think having that flexibility and being able to maneuver, watch, see what's going on is going to help us with our culture.
Mm-hmm. Sharon, do you want to follow up on what's been happening at Septimatech?
Yeah, when we, came into the pandemic, nobody, as Jan says, there was no playbook. Culture in our company is very strong and very important. We had to really lean forward and lean on creativity. How do we, keep hold of some of the cultural things that we would do in an organization in terms of special birthdays and anniversaries and, when we'd have Christmas gatherings, be really creative in terms of how we could keep that moving forward. We had to be really persistent. There's a lot of information that was coming at us as an organization and, filtering that through in terms of being relevant for our organization. Was, part of that culture creating and allow people to, not hierarchy. Nobody had the right formula. Team-based autonomy was really important so that everybody could come together and create some solutions. And then more importantly was respect, a culture of respect because, everybody has their different opinions on what was going on and listening to one another, really collaborating and, doing the best for each other because we wanted to make sure everybody was safe. We wanted to make sure that their families were safe. We needed to create a culture that allowed us to serve our customers in different ways than we ever had before. And then we are also a cross-border company trying to navigate the restrictions at the border to come in and help service our customers as well. So culture was really, the people rising to the occasion through that adversity was really important for us.
Mm-hmm. And Yolanda, I want to jump over you because you're also managing a global team.
Yep.
So I want to talk to you about how you manage that. But PepsiCo just had a new initiative, Work That Works.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit what that means?
Yeah, listening to our associates, as you mentioned, there's a lot of change that's happened over the past year and a half.
And what we try to do is make sure we connect with employees and we take feedback and we understand what have been some of the challenges, what are they looking for in their work experience, while still creating culture that really represents PepsiCo globally. And our cultures can be unique by country and by culture at the same time. But work that works is really an opportunity to allow employees to have a lot more flexibility, as you mentioned, to not necessarily be in the office all the time, but also work with their managers. And it's really an opportunity where the managers actually have a lot of freedom to work with their associates on an individual level,
Right.
which allows for, you may need to still come into the office and be connected to an office, but not every day.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Does it fit your work environment? Do you need to meet with your team? Can you do it with some of the tools that we have? So it's actually really exciting.
Yeah.
And as we embark upon it, I'm sure we'll evolve even more. And we have to be sensitive to where it is in the world, like the global culture, but pretty exciting to start.
Right. Tracy, you work with a lot of contract manufacturers, right?
Yes.
Is it difficult to manage those relationships? Just in general, but especially during a pandemic?
So we have fabulous co-pros that we work with, and we really found that being supportive of them and empathetic towards what they were going through was, the key to keeping a good working relationship going. Baking was considered an essential industry, so they were allowed to stay open. And I have to say, they took into consideration what their employees were feeling, how they were feeling, and tried to work around who was comfortable and who wasn't. For us, it was just more having really good communication and understanding if something was going to be delayed and if there needed to be an extended time period to receive product.
Right. So we're allowing more employees to work remotely. And Gian, I know that you're hiring people all over the world. If somebody decides to live and work remotely, are they giving up opportunities at the company?
Yeah, I think that that's something that we're all trying to figure out. So during COVID, we have hired several people inside the company at executive levels. We're based in San Diego, and most of those people are not required to move to San Diego. So it's actually opened up a whole new world of talent for us. And when we look at that and we think, well, how do we get the best and the brightest? Well, the best and the brightest may not want to move to San Diego. We've got what COVID has done, I think, has really blurred the lines between work and our home lives. And I think everybody at some level has taken a step back and reassessed work and their home lives. I sit on calls. I know more about people who work for the company, and they know more about me than we would have ever known pre-COVID. You're on a call. I could tell you, I talked to this guy named Mike. His wife turns on the blender every single time we're talking. It's like, okay, I know she has her protein shake around 10 o'clock every day. So you've got this blur, but we've got to embrace the fact that this is not the same world that we were all living in 2 years ago. And I think we're in the middle of it. If you look at COVID as a book, there are chapters of the book, and I think we're someplace in the middle. And I don't have all the answers, but I do know that we have a huge opportunity to allow people to be the best versions of themselves and give them the flexibility and say, you know what, this take a look. There's a lot of negative with COVID, but let's focus on the positive. The positive for us is we've been able to attract rock star talent into our company by being a little bit more open with respect to where people actually do that work. Is that going to prevent them from getting opportunities? No, I think that leads into another discussion of how are you effective in this new world of work? It is different. If you're not in the boardroom anymore and you're on a computer, it's a different toolbox. So I think that really puts a little bit more pressure on the team member to say, if you want to live in Antarctica and you've got an internet connection and I don't have to know that you're living in Antarctica and you can still be as effective, then I'm going to embrace that. And so I think it's really, it becomes a discussion on how do you maneuver in this new world of remote work?
Okay, so then let's turn it towards how do you lead in this new world of work? How do you lead a global team, Yolanda, when you're working remotely?
There's a lot of Zooms. I'm gonna tell you, there's a lot of Zooms. No, and I tell you, that's the one thing I do miss is seeing my teams face to face around the world. But as a leader, understanding where they're at and being available. And I think that's one of the most important items that I set up for myself was if I'm talking to my team in China, I'm going to be on their time zone, right? So it might be 9 o'clock at night for me, but it's their day, it's their working day, or my team in India. So I think when you have a global team and you're a leader of a global team and they're feeling so remote, and sometimes in many countries, they weren't even able to leave the house, where we had a little bit more freedom to know that their leader cares and how they're doing and reaching out and having those one-on-ones and not even necessarily talking about the projects or the work, but just how the team's doing.
Sure.
And to see everyone and see all the faces. I do see more people now, and that opportunity as a leader just warms my heart because I get to see their faces, I get to see their backgrounds, and I get to see their kids and their dogs too. So, but I will tell you as a leader, even through this, being available for your team and the time that they need you is one of the things that I think will help them also feel a little bit more stable.
So Sharon, I'm going to jump over to you. How do you manage collaboration and maintain productivity, especially in a work environment where you have to be there, you have to be hands-on? But are there other tools or technologies that you've implemented as a result of the pandemic, or maybe have accelerated adoption of it because of what's happened over the past year?
Yeah, we had to really rely on different tools and technologies for our team. The adoption of Microsoft Teams, I'm sure everybody has done that, but that really moved us forward in terms of that collaboration, and not just internal collaboration among employees, but also with our customers. When we're having discussions about projects and, design reviews and then installation reviews, and that whole process there was a really good connection into our customers. And then our online presence, really, through PMMI, last year when the PACK EXPO Chicago, we all went virtual. And so how do you navigate that? And so ever since then, we've really been ramping up our online presence. And, when you have people working remotely, we need to get that information to them and they need to bring it back. So the whole infrastructure of that collaboration and file structure, we just did a lot of work and investment into that side of the business.
Mm-hmm. So having an online presence, obviously people are buying differently now. So there's a lot of e-commerce, about a lot of buying online. And Tracy, I know that you say that your husband, Scott, had helped you so much because the website was so good. Yep. But what did you experience over the past year with online buying? Do you feel that was part of the success of the organization?
It's such a bittersweet thing to talk about because while we were succeeding and thriving, other people were not. So believe it or not, that was a discussion we always had and was always foremost in our mind. We, at that point, were only online. We had closed our Faneuil Hall location and had closed our cupcake shop years and years prior, so we were strictly online. My husband developed a platform called Pronto, which was really to help the companies who felt like they needed to do something for their employees, whether it was virtual parties or sending birthday gifts. And in order to make it easy, he built Pronto, and all people needed to order was an email address. And it was brilliant because I don't know about you, but I don't know anyone's street address. I don't know if they're going on vacation, and I don't know if they have food allergies. So in order to send this, what we call the gift card on steroids, all you needed was their email address. You sent them the gift card. Hey, I'm sending you a gift of a 4-pack. And everyone could go in, pick their delivery date, what flavors they wanted, and put their own home address in. So this really facilitated shopping online for people. That and the fact that we were very cognizant of our demographic, which is mostly women, 20s to their 60s. And it had to be easily navigable so people would go in and buy, not just go in and get lost.
Sure. Jan, do you have, now that there's more online buying, in fact, I get big packages of Bumblebee tuna sent to my house.
Keep doing that.
How do you shift as an organization, as a manufacturer, to accommodate more of an e-commerce presence? Have you had to do things differently?
Yeah, and for a company like ours, I mean, we're a 129-year-old, manufacturing company of mostly cans. But yeah, you look at what happened in COVID, and all the channels of distribution increased, but e-commerce increased the most. It went up 58%, compared to mass, club, general retail. It has slid down just a little bit, but it's still significantly higher than any other channel of distribution with respect to grocery. And so it did force us to look at it. I mean, you think our main product for tuna is a 48-count case. How many? Do you order 48 count cases? Okay.
That was me.
Yeah, most people don't want 48 cans of tuna, so we've got to figure out a way to make that smaller. Your offerings, your assortment online ends up being a little bit different, and then you've got to think about the cost dynamics of it. So a can of tuna retails for about $1, and you look at the cost of freight to get that can of tuna to your house. It's an investment that we're making. We don't make any money on e-commerce, we lose money. Okay. But the idea is to try to get out there and eventually figure out how we can turn that into a profitable business. But that is a challenge. I don't think it's a challenge specific to us. I think a lot of CPG companies are trying to figure out, well, how do we do this? And how do we do it in a way that can eventually be profitable?
Well, that's a good question maybe for the R&D expert. Like, do you have to think about how you redesign things or
absolutely.
Because of what's happening?
Well, our primary business is chips, and potato chips break, right, when you put them in the bag. So for us, we have to put a lot of thought around the packaging, how to ship, if they're going in combination with cans of tuna or dish detergent, and really structuring that, to Jan's point, profitably. Right, and adhering to even some of the companies like Amazon that have specific requirements to ship our products in, make sure that we do the testing and that our team is set up, and so that they're also understanding what testing needs to be done to be qualified. Because we also saw significant growth during COVID of people ordering online, and our team was challenged to actually be more efficient, to reduce cost, so that we could get it out faster and supply consumers that were looking for this because they weren't out shopping.
Right. Sharon, how has things changed for you on the OEM side of things and supply chain issues? And we talk about big disruptions in the supply chain. What's that meant to you?
It's meant a lot. We're noticing delays with our customers in terms of their projects. It's really meant that we have to be really dialed into our customers and how can we still help them to do their product launches, and really collaborating with them. So, we're doing pre-order releases in terms of getting materials in. We're taking a look at our inventories and really focusing on those materials that are more, we use a lot of it and getting rid of some of the other ones, but collaborating a lot down the line in terms of with our suppliers, and trying to figure out, best ways that we can not miss a beat in terms of our lead times with our customers. And because, they have product launches that they have dates. And so we have to just be really creative and a lot different in terms of our management of our inventory.
Sure. So I want to switch gears to talk more about attracting more women into the manufacturing workplace. So a recent study by the Society for Human Resources Management, it was conducted this past March and April, asked about 1,500 women who identified as the primary caregivers to children under the age of 18 if they're going to go back to work. Of those women who lost their jobs due to the pandemic or stopped working to take care of the children, 69% don't plan to return to work. So how can companies incentivize women to come back to the workplace? I'm going to just throw it out there for any one of you to jump in and with any ideas. How do we, I mean, we're already in a skills crisis. We already have a problem. And we've been trying to attract more people into this industry. And now we're hearing they're not even going to go back to the workplace because of other circumstances. Is there anything we can do as an industry, as a company, to get more women back into the workforce?
I think I'll start. If you look at pre-COVID and you look at manufacturing, and it was all about customization and finding products that were very much individualistic. If you could take that thinking and move that over to human resources and say, you know what, we're going to be very individualistic. We're going to be very customized in how we go out and attract talent because everybody is different. And you look at it and say, okay, you know, this person has children, they may need a different work environment, they may need different work times, and you can be flexible with that, then I think you can attract people. I think it's when you are rigid or you think that it is a one size fits all. I hope that if anything comes out of COVID, that we realize that there is no such thing as one size fits all. Mm-hmm. It doesn't. And so we need to understand and embrace that every single one of us are different. We may have the same exact job, but you know, we're not going to approach it the same way. Our families are different. Our values may be different. And I think if we can start dissecting and welcoming that and embracing that, then you will see people coming back into the workforce. Mm-hmm. You got to take down the barriers.
Sure. And we talk a lot about, you know, diversity and inclusion and having that as part of the organization. Is that the same sort of mindset that PepsiCo is?
It's both. It's both. We have a huge D&I agenda, mm-hmm. right? Because our corporation actually recognized that we do have a gap of women leaders, mm-hmm. Black, Hispanic leaders in the organization, both male and female. And it's part of the culture of having the dialogue of what's missing, how do we connect and understanding, but also, as you said, some flexibility. What does work look like for you at the job in order to advance? What are you looking for? And being flexible and understanding. And I think the culture really helps to set that when you think about coming into work and what are my opportunities, but walking the walk as you talk the talk. Mm-hmm. And I think for PepsiCo, that's what we're striving to do, is ensure that we're not just saying it's really nice to have, you know, a diverse leadership team. We're actually progressing and showing that we're serious about it. We're hiring more leaders that are Black and Hispanic talent. We're showcasing them within our ranks on our boards as we do some major changing. So it is an evolution because mm-hmm. a lot of companies are looking to change. They're recognizing where they've been, and it's not a good place.
Sure. Sharon, I know your company, you focus a lot on culture. Are there any programs or initiatives in place to maybe recruit a more diversified workforce?
Yes, we're always looking for diversity in our workforce. And, you know, we're reaching into the different schools that are local to us, trying to put together some programs, work with our employees too. It's word of mouth as well. And, you know, as Jan was saying, the flexibility in the workplace, job sharing, part-time, you know, it's not necessarily 9 to 5, Monday to Friday anymore. It's 24/7. And, you know, what works best for their families. And it's not necessarily we're finding the women who need some support. It's a lot of our male counterparts as well, who also are trying to juggle family as well. So just, again, trying to be really creative. And you know, schools seem to be a big part of it. And then the word of mouth.
So the Manufacturing Institute recently said that we need more women to mentor women because a female mentor will understand that negotiating a salary might be different for a woman than for a man. So do you think that men can effectively mentor women? And Tracy, I'm going to, based on your experience with Mr. Wonderful and Marcus Lemonis, I'm going to ask you that first.
Yes, I do. This is a two-parter for me. So Kevin actively seeks out female CEOs when he looks at Shark Tank companies. He has said that, and we've actually done speaking engagements for places like Inc. magazine that have celebrated women in business. And he just comes out and says that. So I do believe that. I think a lot of men who are more secure in their own positions and in their companies are less likely to be, I don't even know what word to use, to be that way with women, to not accept them as an equal. I was telling you before we started, when I started my company and I would go to even just simple B&I meetings or networking events in Boston, I was so not looked upon as a serious contender as a business owner because I baked cupcakes. And as a matter of fact, people would call me Cupcake, and that would make me insane. It just really, it's just really like, honestly, this is what you're calling me. Soon as they found out that I had a pathway to Kevin or Marcus or these other people, then they were my best friend, but purely to gain access. So that's when I realized that there was a distinct difference. It hadn't really dawned on me before. I never saw people as male or female or black or white or any of that. We were all working together. We were all business people. But in a long roundabout way, yes, men can successfully mentor, I think, when they're more comfortable in their own skin.
And Yolanda, I want to jump to you because when we were speaking earlier, you talked about having a personal board of directors, which I found fascinating. Can you explain what that means?
Yeah, and I'll add. I think you can have more than like 2 or 3 mentors, male and female. As I started my journey, I realized that I would get in my own head and I would start to confuse myself. And so I reached out to peers that I respected, who could give me an honest opinion. And so I called them my personal board, and they're male and female. And some of them have been peers in other companies. Some of them are people that I work with today. But they're the people that I work with that I could call up on the phone and say, hey, I'm considering this opportunity. Does this fit me? You know me really well. And these are people that do know me really well, that know when they can call me out separately on the phone and say, ooh, you're a little tough on that call, back up. And I'm like, oh, all right. But when I need someone to think about or something to think about, I call my board. And I don't just call one at a time. I might call 3 of them in a week because I need a balanced approach on how am I thinking? Am I really thinking about it strategically? Am I missing the boat? Hey, did I just go off task when I told them that this was my goal and now something bright and shiny caught my attention? My board will course correct me. And they will say, hey, we talked about your 5-year plan. This is different. Did you just change your plan? And where's your book? Oh, yeah, the book. All right. No, you're right. So I recommend it. I recommend it. I recommend it not just your best friend, not just your family, your sister, but someone who know your aspirations, what you aspire to do, how do you expect to grow, both personally and professionally. And those are the people, men and women, that you should reach out to and call regularly so that you can also check yourself and say, okay, am I progressing?
I agree. I think it's so important to find people who will be honest with you. You do not want somebody to say, oh, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. Yeah, you don't want that. You want somebody who has the guts to say, you know what, that's really a bad idea. Or, that color doesn't look good on you. Or, you want somebody to be honest with you. And I think it doesn't matter if they're male or female. It doesn't matter if they're a CEO or a peer or somebody even who's on your team that works for you. It can be anyone. It's that honesty that you want that I think that helps you grow.
But they know they're my board member. So it's very different. They know that that's what I'm calling them about.
Okay.
That's good.
I love it. I know we are going to welcome Q&A, so our questions from the audience. I want to make sure we have enough time for that. So as we start to wind down our conversation, are there any lessons learned from the past 18 months or so? Sharon, anything that you sort of take away from what's been going on?
Lessons learned. Really, collaboration is huge. It's key. leadership in the moment of adversity, and showing your strength. You might not necessarily have all the answers, but to be that leader and allow people to, you make mistakes and, you just learn from it, and just be persistent. And, we're going to get through it. We still have some challenges ahead of us. But I think the more and more we work together as a team, more and more we get more connected with our whole community of, customers and families and employees, we're that much more successful.
Do your leadership skills have to change, Jan?
I do think there will be a new toolbox as we come out of this, and the constituency that I think is going to be maybe a little more challenged are the new people coming into the workforce. Because they don't it's like the same thing, people graduating from high school or college and doing that virtually. It is different. We talked about this the other night. When I started in CPG 30 years ago, you went to meetings and you watched how people addressed difficult questions, and you learned by being with people, and it is a lot different now that you're not with the people. So it's a different skill that people will have to learn. I'm confident in our younger generation that they will certainly figure that out. But yeah, I do think it's a different toolbox. It's a different toolbox for leaders as well. We need to do a lot more what I call watching and listening. Right. I am not about setting policies. I know people are thinking about how they're going to, they're back to work policies. I think if you watch and you listen, you don't build sidewalks until you see where people are walking. It's too early, in my opinion, to really know where things are going. So if we could just take a step back and watch, listen to our team members, then we will figure out how we move forward.
Mm-hmm. Yolanda,
No, I think it's a continual evolution. And I think that's what we need to be prepared for. Because as I think about a multi-generational, even work culture, some of the newer people are a lot more savvy on the technical devices, and they're a lot quicker to adapt and adopt some of the new tools. But some of us who, like you said, have been around 30 years, take a little bit more time at teams. But even some of the tools that are evolving us, I think are actually very beneficial because they do focus on collaboration and really help us grow. But I do think empathy, some self-care is also some of the things that I take away from the last year and a half was really remember to take time out and encourage your employees to make sure that they do that too.
Do we have any questions from the audience? Right in the middle over here.
Good morning. I'm Candace Bonfiglio with Morrison, so thank you, ladies, for all your insights. I especially love the personal board. I'm going to take that away with me. I love that branding. I wrote my question down because it's a little long, but this morning, in listening to you, my thought process was, how do you deal with the disparities between those employees that you can allow to work from home versus those that have to be in a facility or in a plant or on a floor somewhere? It's a great perk to be able to work from home, and obviously it's a flexibility that's not offered to everyone. So how did you personally deal with that in terms of your teams, but how did your companies also deal with that?
I can start.
Okay, go ahead, Yolanda. Yep.
Part of being in R&D is we have labs. Our labs have been open. So many of our scientists, our product engineers, our packaging engineers, actually some of them have been there every day. And so we ensured that their environments were safe. There was nice distancing. As some of the rules changed, we kept them up to date. But we also allowed them to give us feedback on how things were. And I think as a leader, knowing that you have both associates that are some working all the time in the office and some a little bit more remote, is to be available and reach out to the ones that are in the lab and in the office and walking around so that they can see you at a safe distance, right? So that you're keeping safe. But it is an evolving culture because sometimes if you're frontlined, right, that's part of something that the company has to work through in making sure that our frontline associates feel safe, also feel honored because they are in the front of helping to deliver our business. And within PepsiCo, that's one of the cultures we wanted to make sure that we honored our frontline associates because they're still delivering our business day to day to our customers that ultimately get to our consumers and recognizing some of the challenges that they have. Does that answer your question? Well, I think some of the perks I'll add to it. So the frontline associates in sales, they actually have programs to help them a lot more, especially during COVID, because, and I'm not in sales, so I can't articulate exactly what they've done, but I know that there was a lot of discussion and a lot of elevation on the responsibility. But with an R&D, part of also being available and understanding their needs and being flexible. Right, we might not have been, I would say, when we had a normal environment, as flexible, but I see a lot more sensitivity and a lot more empathy to even our associates because some of them had children who got sick or family members they had to take care of. How do we then help them still manage through that without feeling burdensome, like I'm not in the office? What we also found is their teams really pitched in, right? So they had a strong collaboration with their working team to also make sure that from their perspective, nothing dropped, nothing sacrificed, but the leaders also made sure that from a team perspective, how are we recognizing that? And some little extras, not a lot, but there are certain things that we do within our company. We compliment. We send it online. We let people sign up on the board, great job. We do encouraging. And then sometimes we have what we like to have is coffee chats to allow people to voice some of the concerns that we may not be as close to.
Are there any other questions?
Thank you so much, ladies. You're all very impressive. Jan, something you said really resonated with me. You talked about early on in your career, you learned by attending meetings and seeing people, and I felt that I learned through osmosis early in my career. My question is, how do we create those opportunities for our younger, especially female colleagues who are starting out in a virtual or hybrid world where they may not have that same level of exposure that we did?
What we've done inside our company is tried to do similar to what you said, like coffee and conversations. So we do have that available for the people who are not in the corporate office. We've also been pretty flexible even in the corporate office where, we will go we live in San Diego, so that is certainly a benefit. The weather is nice all year round. We can go for walks on the beach or, sit on the pier and have a meeting. There's a brewery that has all outside seating, and we've done a lot of meetings sitting, 6 feet apart at the brewery. The ideas get better as the day goes on, but I think you'd have to be creative and think about those types of things. We've had a lot of conversations, but I'm the kind of person, I need people around me. I don't want to sit in my house. I also don't want to sit in the office by myself. And there's a lot of people like that. So, how do you create environments where people want to come in and learn or have a discussion? And I think that's where the creativity needs to come because we're still maneuvering through keeping people safe, which is the most important thing.
I think we have time for another question.
Yes.
Over here.
My question is,
We can't. Where are they?
yes, this is for Tracy.
I'm sorry, can you put your...
Yeah, we can't.
Oh, okay. Hi.
Yes, this question is for Tracy. First of all, let me say I love your story. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I would not dare call you a cupcake. I have 2 daughters. They're 2 engineers. I'm an engineer. One of them has the heart of an entrepreneur. In fact, she went to Cornell University in Stanford, and she developed a medical device and spent a year in California trying to get investors. She failed. She's comfortably in a role now back in corporate America. My question to you is, what is the message you would give to those who seem like they've left dreams behind? What's the message you would share to those?
I missed the very end of that.
What is the message that you would give to someone who has a heart of an entrepreneur and seem like they've left that trail behind?
So I have always been a firm believer, and when it's the right time, it's going to happen. And I also believe in never shutting the door on something, because as we travel through life, through people we meet and connections we make, somehow things can always come back around. I think that she should make that. She's young, right? Is she married or have responsibility? Okay, then she can work a second job, and that can be her second job, right? Yeah. So awful. She can still be working on this and not totally put it to bed, because where there is a will, there is a way. I really believe that. And if she reaches out to some local business groups and finds some mentors, ever reach out to me, I'll talk to her.
Oh, I love it.
Awesome. Thank you.
So I think we're out of time.
One more.
Are we out of time?
One more.
One more.
Over here.
One more question?
Hey, this one's, thank you, appreciate all the ladies up there, but it was specifically for Tracy. That was along the lines of my question. So I created a pasta line out of a restaurant group that I have, and I started pasta. It's nothing new, but it's unique to what I'm doing. I started a quick service over the pandemic. I have a fine dining restaurant. I started a quick service like the Chipotle of pasta. So I'm here to figure out how to package and produce and sell it rapidly on a wholesale and retail. But my question was, since you're retired, are you ready to bring on a mentor?
Absolutely. Did you get my email address?
Awesome.
Email me.
I will for sure. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much.